Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to be attempting to DIY something that I reviewed in my at-home store website, Trick or Treat Best and Worst Product Reviews, and this was one of the items on the worst products that I thought anyway. And the reason that I put it on the worst products is because it just seems like it is so easy to do. Now this is a, what do they call it here? A just 12 by 16 wood tray art, and my complaint in my other video is basically that it looks just like a picture frame, and I actually had the chance to see it in the store this past week, and I agree with my very first assessment. When I looked at it in person, it was basically just a picture frame with some artwork and some handles attached to it. So this is something that they want to charge us $24.99 for, and I've said in the video we can probably do that for less. So let's go ahead and see if that is the actual case. Can we do this same basic look for less than $25? Now I'm already going, well, I'm not going over budget yet, but I can certainly be DIYing this for a lot less than I've started with so far. And the reason I did that is because I bought this lovely piece of artwork here from the Goodwill store, and I paid, let's see, $7.97 for this. Now they had frames that were a lot cheaper, and in fact, you probably want to use an actual picture frame, not framed art, because the picture frame probably has, a basic wood backing to it, which is what we're going to paint to make our eek sign. And it'll be easy to remove from the back. This one is not going to be easy to remove, but we'll take that one step at a time. And the reason that I got this particular bathtub picture is because the one that they feature at the at-home store is, well, I'm not sure what the dimensions are because it calls it in the title a 12 by 16 wood tray. However, in the description, it's 16 by 20. So I don't know what the actual dimensions are. I didn't think to measure it in the store, but I thought this actually seemed more of a tray size, which is why I was willing to pay basically $8 for it. Plus I liked the frame. We're going to need a pretty sturdy frame because what we're also going to need to do is add handles to it. So I went to the Home Depot store and just went into the cabinet section and bought some handles. Let's see if I can pull one out for you. Now they had a variety of handles that ranged from like $2 up to several dollars, and I actually paid a little bit more for these two because I don't know how well you can see it in the video. It's a pretty nice looking substantial handle, and it's got this sort of bronzy orangey trim to it, which I thought gave it that subtle Halloween feel as opposed to just one of the lesser handles that we could have got. So I paid actually $4 each for these handles. But we could have basically done that for half price. And I think those are going to make that look like a nice substantial tray. The one in the at-home store, the handle was, I think, it was just a little plastic arch or something. It was not very nice at all. So I'm going to just try and make mine look as good as I can make it. What I'm going to need to do to do that is spray paint the inside, hopefully, with this orange spray paint that I picked up at Walmart, and the color is actually glossy pumpkin orange, so I thought that was perfect. And then I just had some black paint in my paint storage, so this is kind of old, but I'm sure it's probably going to work, because basically we're going to need to splatter effect some, paint a splatter effect on our our tray base and draw in an eek. So we'll take that one step at a time too, because this is gloss. I also have a matte one, but I think the gloss will probably end up looking better. And I forgot to bring it, but we're also going to need some black spray paint, because although I could leave this tray or this frame in this sort of dark brown color, I'm actually going to paint it black so we can as closely imitate the tray on the picture as possible. So step one is to go ahead and open up our frame back and see how easy it's going to be to make the base of our picture. right. This picture, by the way, Kohl's was selling for $35. It's a nice frame. Okay, so here we go. All right, and it looks like this is my bathtub picture, which Kohl's has taped in, quality products from Kohl's, but I can clearly see I'm not going to be able to use this backer piece. So I'm going to find something that's going to fit. Hopefully I don't have to cut something, but we're going to find another piece that'll fit right inside of here and get that spray painted orange. All right, I have gone ahead and painted some cardboard this glossy orange. Now what I actually ended up doing was taking an old picture that I had. It was just one from years and years ago. It was just a sort of cheap, inexpensive garbage picture. So when I opened up the picture frame, the picture was actually printed on this heavy sort of cardboard. So that's what I used for my tray insert. I just spray painted 3 coats of orange. It's this glossy pumpkin orange, and it covered up the image very well. And the glossy is actually pretty good because I've been experimenting with the black paints and I accidentally drizzled some on, and because it's glossy and it's already dried, I was able to just wipe it right off. So that's good in case you have any mistakes with our next step of trying to do the splatter effect on it. But while we were out here, I actually also went ahead and painted my picture frame. I just took the glass out and spray painted it with 3 coats of the black. Now I was leaving it outside to dry and it started to rain. So I think the rain has messed it up just a little bit. So it's not perfect. I'm going to give it another coat or 2 just to try and cover that up, make it look a little bit nicer. But usually 3 coats is about all you need. But I was experimenting a little bit. There's no way I'm going to get that fine line look of our original tray. But I just used some cardboard. I experimented with a couple of different brushes and I found just a big old regular paint brush is best with just a splatter from far away. Gives me a decent splatter effect that I'm happy with. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot now and hope for the best. Now, I did see like the farther it splattered, I can't remember if that was close or far. Uh-oh, I might be in trouble, but hopefully, if it turns out horrible, we can just wipe it off and start again. But I'm hoping to get this sort of lighter splatter effect that we see down here as opposed to the big chunk up there. All right, here goes nothing. I kind of think I only have one chance at this, so I'm gonna remind you again. I'm gonna try and get the major splatter either to the top or to the bottom and kind of just get like the wispy bit. So I think I'm actually gonna aim farther into the ivy and hopefully just get the residual splatter back here. So here goes nothing. Let's see what happens. Get a good amount of paint and just splatter. All right, well, that's not too bad. I kind of like it actually. Let's see if I can, oh no. Now the problem I see right now is that I had I kind of washed my paintbrush out and it's got a lot of water splatter on here now. All right, already, it's not bad. Actually, the water splatter gives it kind of a different dimensional effect. So I was thinking right now I was going to wipe it off and try and do it again, but I think I'll just keep it and just kind of try and get some more up there. That's interesting. I guess there's really no wrong way to do it. I kind of wish that didn't happen, but it did, so. It's just. All right, I have gone ahead and installed one of the handles for our tray. It's coming along nicely. Of course, this is not quite finished. This is a good time for me to remind you to measure twice, cut once, because I have already made a mistake. I had measured everything out, got my dimensions, marked it out, and for some reason I was still a quarter of an inch off. So when I drilled my holes and tested it, my handle was just slightly skewed, and I could have lived with that, but that would drive me insane eventually. So I went ahead and centered it properly, But the problem is now, although one of the holes that I drilled the first time is covered by the handle, I still have a tiny little hole here, and that's going to bother me. So, you know, I had mentioned that I'm going to give this another coat of spray paint, and hopefully that'll cover up my mistakes. And since this is underneath the handle, I'm not too worried about it. It's not a big mistake. I don't have any wood filler. I'm going to use spackle, hopefully. That'll be enough to just fill that in, paint it. No one will ever see it. I'm the only one who will ever know it is there. But that, again, just reminds us, measure twice. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with you, and hopefully we'll get it right this time. If you don't know what you're doing, it's always a good idea to use a piece of wood as a practice. And that's what I did. I just took some drill bits from my spare drill bit cup and found one that was going to work with the screws that came with the handle. Now when I open up my handle here, it does come with a variety of screws. I was lucky enough that the short ones fit just fine. So what you need to do is measure out, well, this is how I did it. I measured from tip to tip of my handle, and that is 5 inches. And then I also measured the holes, which is exactly 3 inches center to center, and that's what you're going to see on your label too. This is a 3-inch pull. So I just sort of first eyeballed it where I wanted it to go, measured, this is 11.5 inches from end to end, and I know that my pull is 5, so just doing some simple subtraction, 11.5 minus 5 is 6.5. 6.5 divided by 2 is 3.25. That means I need 3.25 inches from tip of my handle pull thing to tip. So I just double check that's 3.25 on both sides. I know that's correct. Now, I'm also going to take the measure, since I know I need 3.25 inches to the tip, how long is it from the tip to the hole? And that is exactly 1 inch. So I know now I need to go from the outside in 4.25 inches. So I am just going to take my Sharpie, and I'm also going to just double, I test fit it first, and then I'm going to measure how far that hole is going to land from the outside edge here. And I know that that hole is basically right under where the handle piece is there. So if I measure, or you can even just measure to the center of your section here, it's about 3/4 of an inch. So I know I'm going to need 4.25 inches from the edge, 3/4 inches in. I'm just going to give myself a little dot. So 4.25 and 3/4 inches in puts me right there. All right, so I just draw myself a little hole. Gonna just line that up with this just so I can do another test verification that I have measured correctly. 3.25 inches, 3.25 inches. So I'm just gonna do one hole first. And let's go ahead and take that off. I'm just gonna put a little block of wood underneath here and drill a hole right where I have put that mark. All right, now I'm going to measure my 3 inches from that hole so I know it's more likely that it is going to line up correctly. All right, so just take my ruler here. Remember, we're going from center to center. It's 3 inches, just right there. Double check that that's 3/4 in. Needs to be right there. And then let's go ahead and drill it again. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to take the screws, if I can find them, here we are, that came with it. Again, I'm going to use these smaller ones. Just push it through from the underside. one's a little snug. But there we go. All right. And test that it screws into my handle. Hopefully all the holes line up. All right, they do. So I'm not going to actually screw that in completely right now, because what I'm going to do, as you can see, we're going to have screw heads that stick up in the bottom. So I'm going to take this out and then take one of these. These are just sort of, what are they called? Forstner bits. And it's going to just drill out a section of where that screw head is, so we can sink in the screw head, and that way it'll lay flat when we put it down. So give me a moment, I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, I went ahead and drilled out these two screws, and what I found when I did that was, because it drills it out, it makes the hole lower, it actually made it so that our screw was too long. I went ahead and found some shorter screws. They're a little bit wider, so I'm going to have to go and redo it to sink it, but I kind of actually found that it wasn't necessary. It might just be because I did it a little bit, that this screw just sort of sits a little bit more flush. So I'm not going to worry about it just for now, but I'm going to go ahead and do it, I guess, just so you can see what happens when I take this. I just basically go in the hole that I just drilled and just sort of dig it out just a little bit so that the screw head will sink down below the surface. I'm going to go ahead and put these in. There we go. It's practically flush. So I'm very happy with that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up putting some felt on the bottom of it after all. So I was trying to avoid that, but I think that's going to be the best course of action to cover up all of our work on the bottom of the surface here. All right, so I'm actually quite happy with the way the splatter effect turned out. This seems like it could be an easy art project for your home, just for some framed art for, the Halloween season. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to make our frame, so I am going to add my Eek letters to it. And I experimented with a couple things online looking for different fonts and so forth, but I really wanted to, really try and mimic that frame that we saw at the At Home store. So I went ahead and I printed out the picture from their website, and I kind of just resized it into a few different sizes until I found one that would fit my frame. And when I ended up cutting it out in a test run, I thought the letters were still a little too thin because the splatter effect makes it a little harder to see the very thin lines. So I actually took my Sharpie marker and did an outline around the letters just to give them a little bit more bulk, and I cut them out. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit because, what you could do, what I intended to do originally was just to paint the letters on. So, I could use this as a stencil and kind of draw it in and paint it. But instead, what I did is I purchased some of this white sticker paper. I've used this in some previous projects, like my Trick or Treat block letter mantle letters that I did last year, and they worked pretty well. So I went ahead and I printed them out onto this paper and cut them out. So now they're stickers, and I'm going to stick it on and see how that looks. And that's going to kind of dictate what my next steps are. So let me go ahead and pop these on, and then we'll take it from there. All right, this went much better than I had hoped for. Now, as you can see, the stickers adhered pretty well. I was just touching it up a little bit with the markers. Now, when you cut out the letters, if you're going to use stickers, make sure that you trace around it after you cut it out so there's no little white bits. So I just went over it one more time to give it a little more depth of color. But now I was a little concerned that the stickers were going to peel up a little bit, but they seem to be adhering pretty well. And that's going to kind of dictate my next move, because I had thought, well, there's a couple of different ways we can proceed now. we can put the glass on top of it, and that's going to give us a shiny tray, which is good in a sense because then, if we put glasses or something on here, if it spills, it's not going to damage our handiwork here. The other thing we could have done is Mod Podged it, and that would give it some protection in itself, and we'd be good to go with that. And that would also seal down our stickers. But the reason that I decided I think I'm going to go with the glass instead is because I like the fact that I can reposition the stickers. In fact, I can, hopefully, at a later date, if I change my mind and don't want to use the eek, I can peel it off, change the lettering, because one issue is I wasn't thrilled with this lettering. As you can see, it's a little bit hard to see because of the splatter pattern. I'm just going to say it's subtle, but I might want to change that in the future, or I might want it to say boo or something else or whatnot. So if I were to Mod Podge it, that's going to seal in the letters and I'd have a problem. So hopefully my stickers will be okay and will stay adhered to this and we won't have an issue and I'll be able to change it in the future. And that's also going to allow me my next step, which I was a little concerned about too, is I basically took a packet of this spider webbing, took out one of the spiders, clipped off the ring portion, and I'm actually going to hot glue this spider onto the sticker, which is good, so I'm not hot gluing it right onto my paint, which would probably peel off if I wanted to remove it. But I'm going to hot glue it right on top of the sticker, and I've already test fit it with the glass on top because, it sticks up just a little tiny bit because of the plastic, but the plastic's so narrow that I'm thinking it's not going to have much of an impact because it's more in the center of the frame. So let's just hope that's not going to, cause any issues when we go to put it in the frame, but I don't think it will because the cardboard kind of bends around it. And this way it's also going to help us if we were to use this to like carry a glass or something. You're not going to have something sticking up. So let's go ahead and hot glue this thing down. I'm just going to hot glue it right over the spider that was in our sticker. Add a little dab of hot glue here. Hopefully not make too much of a mess. Stick my spider on. Let it set for a second. All right. So now that I got my spider on, which I love, I think this dimension gives it a little bit more realism. Plus with all the splatter effects, it was a little hard to see that paper spider, but now it's going to be much easier to see this sort of three-dimensional spider, especially with the glass giving that just a little bit of gap between the spider legs and the base. It'll make it look more realistic. All right, so got the base. I am just going to now make sure it fits. Well, first we got to put the glass into our frame. On the back of the frame, I have already removed the hanger. So I take my glass, which I've already cleaned, stick it in. Okay, I've got the glass in place. I'm just going to stick our eek sign in next. Should fit pretty perfectly. There we go. Give it a check. Looks good. From here, I'm just going to bend these staples back into place that we're holding it in. All right, you remember our original picture that we took out. We're just going to toss that aside. Do have that original cardboard back, which I'm going to put back into place. That's going to make everything nice and level back here. Going to give it another go round with my hot glue just to help it stay in place. All right. Now, because I might be using this as a tray, I just need to be extra careful that this back's not going to fall out. It shouldn't because we have those tacks holding it into place, but just to be safe, I'm going to take this duct tape and run a line of duct tape across this seam as well. All right, I'm just putting in my last piece of duct tape. There we go. It is nice and secure on the bottom. Now the last thing I want to do, I could just leave it like this and it's fine. It actually sits quite flat. I can see that my spider is very three-dimensional here. I'm very happy with this. However, the original has felt along the bottom, and I'm going to do that too, just in case someone happens to see the bottom of the tray if I were carrying it. So I purchased off of Amazon just some peel and stick felt, which I'm just gonna, looks like 2 sheets should do it. I'm gonna just cut it, put it in place, peel it and stick it, and be done. All right, I'm just cutting my last piece of felt to size. It cuts very easily. Now, one thing I did notice is that, oops, cut this last little bit off. When I sized it all out, it looks like there's about a 1-inch gap between the 2 pieces of felt. I just put a piece of this black duct tape in between it. I could have taken my marker too and just colored it in. I could have used another piece of felt and just cut it to size and put a 3rd piece of felt in there, but I figured nobody's ever going to see this. Might as well just save the felt. So let me go ahead and put this last piece in place. Just line it up with the edge here. And there we go. Press it down. We are done. And now this is not going to scratch my tabletop. So there we go. We've got my Eek tray. Put this down here. Sits nice and flat on my tabletop. Perfect for transporting my drinks. And I think it looks like a very good representation of the at-home store. Now again, we could have gone without the glass. I think it would have given it more of a matte finish. Might have looked a little more tray-like, a little less picture-like, but the at-home store one looked just like a picture too, so I'm happy with it. Let me know, what do you think? Does it look like the at-home store? Is it better? Or is it worse? Or would you even bother doing this? Because, like I said, the price has sort of exceeded, I don't know if it's exceeded what we would have paid at the at-home store, but that's because, I went with the upgraded frame, I went with the upgraded handles, I had to buy the sticker paper, but I get more sticker paper sheets, so I'm not really going to count that. What else did I have to buy? Oh, this felt. But again, I've got more felt pieces, and I'm going to be able to reuse the rest of those too. So the frame, I think, what did I say it was? Like $7. These were $4 each, so $15 plus supplies. Is it worth it? I don't know. But I do like it. I have a project that I've done, so I can be proud of this, and I'm certainly going to show it off this Halloween season. So stay tuned for more DIYs, and until then, take care of yourself, guys. Happy haunting.